Senator from Utah.
Mr. President, abortion is always tragic, as it involves the taking of an innocent human life, one that has yet to draw its first breath or commit its first sin. And in the case of a chemical abortion, it sometimes takes two lives, that of a baby and that of the mother. Advocates for this procedure will say that it is simple, that it's easy, that it's convenient, and that it's safe. They claim that it's a good and valuable form of quote-unquote health care for women. But Mr. President, nothing could be further from the truth. The grim and gruesome reality is that this barbaric practice wreaks havoc on women's bodies and destroys the tiny bodies growing within them. So just how does this procedure work? Well, the details are not pleasant. First, the mother is given a pill that blocks progesterone. This, of course, is a hormone that's necessary for pregnancy, and it breaks down the lining of her uterus. Without progesterone, you see, the baby whose heart is already beating is starved to death and dies in her mother's womb. Then, 24 to 48 hours later, the mother is given a second pill, one that empties her uterus by causing severe contractions and bleeding, mimicking early miscarriage that can last anywhere from a few hours to a few weeks. Planned Parenthood will try to gloss over the truth, here as elsewhere, claiming that a hot shower and some ibuprofen are enough for a quick recovery to get the mother back on her feet. But on average, the miscarriage lasts between 9 and 16 days and can last for as long as 30 days. 30 days, that's a long time. Most of the time, these abortions are done at home. The mother is left to suffer alone, without care or medical attention, without supervision from a doctor or a nurse, and often without any follow-up whatsoever until 7 to 14 days later, if ever, keeping in mind that many of them don't get any follow-up care at all. The result? Well, women have suffered tragic, gruesome, and horrific experiences using the abortion pill. It's caused nearly 4,200 adverse medical events, including more than 1,000 hospitalizations and nearly 600 instances of blood loss requiring transfusions. Some women have even died. The FDA has reported 24 maternal deaths from the abortion pill just since its approval in 2000. And those are just the officially reported ones that we know of that have happened with the regulations we currently have in place. That is based on the assumption that those regulations are in place. That's the rate. That is still a really high rate at which they die. Some women need corrective surgery after taking the abortion pill, and others require life-saving procedures. And somehow, we call this health care. This is not like popping a Tylenol. This two-step abortion cocktail poses severe risks to women, not even to mention their unborn babies. In fact, abortion pills are one of only a few medications that require what's known as a risk evaluation and management strategy, a drug safety program that the FDA requires for medications with serious risks. And yet some are pushing to further expand access to these drugs and even further loosen the regulations around them. Some activists are even pushing for access to the abortion pill by mail, meaning that the patient would never even have to be seen in person by any medical professional at all. Not a medical clinic, not a doctor, not a nurse, nothing in person. The standards of care surrounding this practice are already reckless. They're already harmful, and they're already causing misery, injury, suffering, and death. In fact, they're unacceptable standards of care for women and for babies. The last thing we should be doing is making them even worse, making them even more vulnerable than they already are. So setting aside for a minute how you feel about other issues related to unborn human life in this area, let's just talk about this issue for a moment. Let's just talk about whether this issue is really one that we want to expand, where we increase the amount of misery, the amount of suffering, and the amount of carnage that would occur as a result of more people gaining access to this deeply flawed, very dangerous form of so-called health care. That's why we ought to support the bill put forward by my friend and colleague, Senator Hyde-Smith. The Save Moms and Babies Act would prohibit the FDA from approving new abortion drugs, from loosening any regulations that exist on already approved abortion drugs, and from dispensing abortion drugs remotely or through the mail. The purpose of health care is to heal, to preserve, and to protect human life, Madam President. A chemical abortion happens in the first trimester of life, up to about the 10th week of pregnancy, when an unborn baby already has a beating heart, when an unborn baby already has a growing brain, and the growing baby already has 10 fingers and 10 toes. And she deserves a shot at life, at the beginning of life, at the front door. And she deserves to not have it taken away and literally flushed down the drain. And mothers deserve the utmost care, protection, and support as they nurture the human life inside of them. Not medical harm and not medical neglect. Our healthcare system should protect and care for them both. And our laws should uphold the immeasurable dignity and worth of both. This bill is a step in the right direction. And I implore all of my colleagues to support this legislation. Thank you, Madam President.